A dull ache pulled Caleb from his sleep. The hotel room was completely dark. He lay tangled in crisp white sheets. His body felt heavy and unresponsive. A searing heat radiated from behind him. An arm, like a human furnace, was locked around his waist. As consciousness returned, a jolt of panic shot through him. He scrambled to sit up, away from the touch. Last night was his fraternity's mixer at a downtown bar. He remembered getting completely wasted. His memory stalled on a single image: Ethan carrying him out of the loud establishment. After that, fragments surfaced. He recalled kissing Ethan forcefully in the hotel lobby. Then Ethan had him pinned beneath him. His voice was a low, rough whisper. He warned Caleb that he had asked for this. He told him not to have regrets tomorrow. When Caleb had tried to escape, he was pulled back. His mind was a total blank. Now Ethan slept soundly beside him. A look of pure satisfaction was on his face. Caleb's mind raced with a single command: run. Clothes were scattered across the floor. The buttons on his own shirt were ripped off. His jeans were surprisingly still wearable. He spotted another shirt on the ground. Caleb glanced nervously at the sleeping man. He quickly snatched it and pulled it on. He fled the room without looking back. Caleb raced back to the familiar safety of his dorm. Ethan was his unofficial uncle. He was his late father's best friend and business partner. The man had a sharp, compelling presence. His physique was lean and powerful. For men like Caleb, he was the ultimate prize. Ethan was only 4 years older than him. He had taken over the family's financial firm after graduation. He became a major player on Wall Street. Unfortunately, Ethan had always seemed to dislike gay men. Caleb's first crush had been Ethan. He had even confessed his feelings to him. His parents were divorcing during high school. The house had been a constant war zone. One night, Caleb sat on a curb, refusing to go inside. A pair of expensive sneakers appeared in his view. He looked up into Ethan's face. The man's body blocked the harsh glare of a streetlight. Ethan had offered him a hand. He told Caleb not to punish himself for adults' mistakes. That was when the seed of affection was planted. During his freshman year, they shared a ride home. It was a rare moment alone together. Caleb, feeling bold, confessed his feelings before getting out. He could still picture the scene perfectly. Ethan's expression had become unreadable. He meticulously straightened his cufflinks. Then he asked Caleb if this was some kind of game. He questioned if Caleb saw him as a predator. He warned him to stop messing around with other men. The rejection stung deeply, but Caleb resolved to move on. He would find his own college romance. Yet, after that day, he saw Ethan more often. Ethan, who rarely attended family functions, never missed one. Caleb found himself constantly avoiding him. This continued until last night's disaster. Now, Caleb sat on his desk chair. A soft pillow was placed underneath him. He sighed, replaying the events. He decided to pretend nothing had happened. He was drunk, and Ethan was not thinking clearly. Besides, Ethan had already rejected him once. He would probably be furious with himself. Ethan looked so polished and refined, but he had acted like a complete animal. Caleb felt a renewed twinge of pain. He bit his lip to keep from crying out. His roommate, Leo, climbed down from his bunk. Leo asked who the cool guy was from last night. Caleb shot him a resentful look. He demanded to know why they let Ethan take him. Leo held up his hands defensively. He explained that Caleb clung to the man. They couldn't pry him off. Caleb buried his face in his hands. He asked if he did anything else embarrassing. Leo confirmed he was stroking the man's abs. Caleb decided he no longer wished to be alive. Meanwhile, in the hotel room, Ethan stirred. He reached for the person beside him. His hand met only empty, cool air. He slowly opened his eyes to an empty room. Ethan rubbed his temples with his long fingers. He knew he had been too rough last night. He had probably scared the boy away. He wondered if Caleb had taken care of himself. After a shower, he looked for his clothes. He noticed his own dress shirt was gone. Only Caleb's ruined shirt remained on the floor. He called his assistant for a change of clothes. Then he sat on the bed with a wry smile. Running away in his shirt was a bold move. It meant Caleb couldn't hide for long. 2 anxious days passed with no word from Ethan. Caleb started to believe he was in the clear. The silence felt like a mutual agreement. Part of him, however, felt strangely annoyed. He never pegged his uncle for a ghoster. He shook the thoughts from his head. Just before class ended, their RA came in. She announced a mandatory alumni networking event. They had to listen to distinguished graduates speak. Caleb grumbled quietly to Leo. He had no interest in successful alumni. He just wanted a sweet college guy to mend his heart. The event was held in the Grand University Auditorium. Caleb chose an inconspicuous seat in the back corner. He planned to play games on his phone with a friend. The auditorium quieted as the speakers took the stage. Then, a familiar voice echoed through the speakers. It was cool, clear, and composed. Caleb's head snapped up. His heart began to pound violently. Was it too late to make a run for it? The man at the podium was Ethan. He stood tall in a perfectly tailored suit. His expression was calm and collected, but his gaze kept drifting to the back corner. His eyes locked onto Caleb, direct and intense. Caleb wished the floor would swallow him whole. Leo nudged him, completely oblivious. He whispered that it was the guy from the bar. He was impressed by Ethan's status. He mentioned Ethan had just donated a new science building. Caleb could only pretend to be invisible. When the final speech ended, Caleb tried to bolt. He ran directly into a solid, warm chest. The familiar scent of pine and cold air filled his senses. He was forced to meet Ethan's heated gaze. Ethan kept him pinned to his seat. They waited until the auditorium was nearly empty. Caleb sighed internally and feigned ignorance. He asked his uncle what he was doing here. Ethan looked down at him with a scrutinizing gaze. He asked if Caleb had used any ointment. He asked if it still hurt. Caleb was stunned by the blunt questions. He thought they agreed to forget about it. Heat crept up his neck and flooded his cheeks. He was forced to meet Ethan's intense eyes. He stammered that he was drunk. He claimed he remembered nothing. Ethan's expression darkened slightly. He fiddled with his cufflink, his voice low. He asked if Caleb truly remembered nothing at all. Caleb insisted that his mind was a complete blank. He asked hopefully if he had done anything too awful. Ethan let out a soft, humorless laugh. He assured him that he had not. Caleb breathed a small sigh of relief. He said he had another class to get to. He wished Ethan a safe trip home. As he stood, a strong hand held him down. Their faces were suddenly inches apart. Ethan's breath was warm against his ear. He whispered that it depended on his definition of awful. He asked if sleeping with him counted. Caleb froze in place. Ethan had no intention of letting this go. Caleb decided to stop fighting. He mumbled that Ethan was the one who slept with him. He reminded Ethan that he was straight. He argued that he was the one at a disadvantage. He suggested they should just let it go. Ethan's jaw tightened at his words. He asked if he should thank Caleb for his generosity. Caleb muttered that thanks were not necessary. Just dropping the subject would be enough. Ethan's grip on his hand slowly relaxed. He agreed not to mention it again. But there was one condition. Caleb was forbidden from getting involved with anyone else. The man was unbelievably possessive. He was homophobic but wouldn't let Caleb be gay. Under pressure, Caleb nodded in agreement. As he tried to leave again, Ethan stopped him. He handed Caleb a small tube of ointment. He told him to apply it or it would get uncomfortable. Caleb scoffed internally at the hypocrisy. He hadn't considered Caleb's comfort before. He reluctantly took the tube. Ethan then said there was something he needed to explain. He started to say he wasn't straight. His phone rang, interrupting the confession. It was his assistant. Caleb seized the opportunity. He slipped from Ethan's grasp and ran from the hall. Behind him, Ethan watched him flee. A slight smile played on his lips. At the campus dining hall, Leo was waiting. He had already saved Caleb a plate of food. As Caleb sat down, breathing heavily, Leo noticed the tube. He asked what Caleb was holding. Caleb quickly shoved it into his pocket. He claimed it was just some antiseptic cream. Leo shrugged and didn't press the issue. Back in his dorm, Caleb felt utterly defeated. He buried his head in his pillow. Then his phone rang. It was his mother. She brought up the internship he had asked about. She had already spoken to someone on his behalf. He was to report to his uncle's firm in 2 days. Caleb mumbled, asking which uncle she meant. His mom replied that it was Ethan, of course. She told him to learn from the best. Then she hung up before he could protest. He was being thrown directly into the fire. Caleb felt like the universe was playing a cruel joke. After 2 days of dread, his mother dropped him off. He stood before the towering skyscraper of Ethan's firm. He took the elevator to the top floor. He stood before the glass doors of the CEO's office. After 3 deep breaths, he knocked. A cool, crisp voice told him to enter. Ethan sat behind a large desk in a sharp suit. He looked up, a slight arch in his eyebrow. He asked again if it still hurt. Caleb couldn't believe his audacity. Asking about his private parts was not a proper greeting. He met Ethan's gaze and finally snapped. He yelled that they agreed not to talk about it. He added that it didn't hurt at all. Ethan's lips curved into a faint smile. He asked if it was pleasurable then. Unwanted images flashed through Caleb's mind. His face burned with shame and anger. He insisted it was not pleasurable at all. He said he had felt absolutely nothing. He turned to leave, declaring he couldn't work there. Ethan's smile widened. He reached out an arm to stop him. He agreed to drop the subject for good. His gaze shifted to a stack of files on his desk. He told Caleb to review the materials. Caleb reluctantly took the files. He asked where his workstation was. Ethan gestured to a desk just a few feet away. It was directly in his line of sight. There would be no slacking off. Caleb sat down, feeling defeated. Ethan was cunning but undeniably handsome. Caleb sometimes caught himself admiring the man. Other than that, he just counted the minutes until 5. The days at the firm dragged on endlessly. Finally, quitting time arrived. As Caleb packed up, Ethan's voice stopped him. Ethan calmly organized his desk. He looked up and said Caleb was accompanying him to an event. Caleb felt like an indentured servant, but he knew resistance was futile. They arrived at an exclusive private club. The place was incredibly luxurious. A man greeted Ethan warmly at the door. Caleb followed him into the crowded main hall. Ethan ordered him a glass of milk. He told him to sit quietly in a corner. Then Ethan took a glass of champagne. He moved through the crowd with effortless grace. Caleb watched him, feeling resentful. Milk for him, expensive champagne for Ethan. When Ethan was distracted, Caleb snagged a flute of champagne. Just then, a stranger approached him. The man asked if he was there alone. He was decent looking, but no match for Ethan. Caleb ignored him and sipped his drink. The man was persistent. He asked if Caleb wanted to get a drink together. Caleb stood up to move away. The man blocked his path. He said he liked boys who played hard to get. Caleb was instantly repulsed. The man's hand reached for his glass. Suddenly, a large hand intercepted him. Ethan gripped the man's wrist, bending it back. The man cried out in pain. He recognized Ethan and his demeanor changed. He apologized profusely, not realizing Caleb was with him. Ethan's face was a cold mask. He told the man not to project his filth onto them. Then he released him with a single word, "Leave." The man scrambled away without another glance. Ethan turned to Caleb, his expression softening. He asked if the man had hurt him. He apologized for leaving him alone. Caleb met his intense gaze, feeling flustered. He finished his champagne in one gulp. He knew the apology wasn't Ethan's to make. For the rest of the night, Ethan kept him close. Later, Ethan drove him back toward campus. A strange, warm tingling spread through his body. He realized his drink must have been spiked. He discreetly pressed his legs together. But a telltale flush was creeping up his skin. Ethan seemed to notice something was wrong. While stopped at a red light, he glanced over. His eyes landed on Caleb's flushed wrist. He asked if Caleb was feeling unwell. Caleb could no longer hold back. His eyes were glassy with unshed tears. He begged his uncle for help. Ethan's gaze dropped to Caleb's fidgeting legs. He asked if that bastard had drugged him. Tears streamed down Caleb's face as he nodded. Ethan's composure finally broke. His expression was a mix of fury and concern. He asked if Caleb wanted to come home with him. Caleb's mind was too foggy to resist. He agreed to whatever Ethan said. Ethan sped through the city streets. He called his private doctor as they got out of the car. Inside Ethan's modern villa, the atmosphere was tense. Ethan tried to remain calm and detached. He said the doctor was on his way. He offered to make some herbal tea. As Ethan turned to leave, Caleb grabbed his arm. He whispered that he was in pain. Ethan's voice was strained with restraint. He asked what Caleb wanted him to do. Meeting Caleb's pleading eyes, he sighed. He offered to use only his hands. Caleb nodded eagerly. Before the doctor arrived, Ethan helped him. The drug made Caleb's mind hazy. He begged for more. Ethan's lips were a thin, tight line. He was clearly at his breaking point. He told Caleb to hold on for the doctor. He swore not to take advantage of him again. Just then, the doorbell rang. The security monitor showed the doctor outside. Ethan gently helped Caleb drink some water and medicine. The next morning, Caleb woke up feeling refreshed. He was in an unfamiliar, luxurious bed. It was not his dorm or the hotel. Memories of the previous night flooded back. His reputation for being reserved was shattered. He felt his entire life was ruined. He pulled the covers over his head. A few minutes later, a soft knock came at the door. Caleb pretended to be asleep. Ethan entered the room quietly. He asked if Caleb was hungry. His tone was casual, as if nothing had happened. But his next words made Caleb freeze. He asked if he was feeling shy. Caleb took a deep breath. He repeated his now familiar excuse about not being lucid. Ethan chuckled softly. He said he knew that was Caleb's go-to line. He wondered when he would stop running away. Seeing Caleb's silence, he didn't push. He told him breakfast was downstairs. Pajamas were in the closet. After they ate, Ethan drove him back to campus. Caleb told himself to be shameless. If he wasn't embarrassed, then no one else could be. After resting for 2 days, he returned to the firm. As he entered the lobby, a man blocked his way. The man fell to the ground, grabbing Caleb's leg. It was the guy from the club. He begged Caleb to make Ethan call off the lawyers. He sobbed that he didn't want to go to jail. The man looked pathetic and broken. Caleb looked down at him coldly. He said a simple mistake didn't cover the crime. He thought about what could have happened. He told the man to get lost. He walked into the building without looking back. Security guards quickly restrained the man. Caleb realized Ethan was different than he thought. Something inside him began to soften. He composed himself before entering the office. Surprisingly, Ethan wasn't there. A sticky note was on his desk. It was Ethan's handwriting. It said he was in a meeting and to eat lunch. A small smile touched Caleb's lips. He muttered that he didn't need a babysitter. Ethan didn't return by the end of the day. Caleb assumed he wouldn't see him. He packed his things to leave. A familiar set of footsteps approached. Ethan checked his watch as he walked in. He said his timing was perfect. He took Caleb's backpack from his hands. He explained that Caleb's mom had invited them to dinner. 5 minutes later, they were in the car. Ethan drove with practiced ease. His hands on the wheel were elegant and strong. Caleb's face grew warm. The man driving beside him chuckled. He asked if Caleb was having impure thoughts. Caleb buried his face lower. He blamed the car's heater. Ethan just smiled and kept driving. They arrived at the restaurant soon after. When they entered the private room, his mom beamed. She immediately fussed over Ethan. Caleb felt like an afterthought. He felt he should be sitting under the table. As he reached for some food, the lazy Susan turned. Ethan quickly and smoothly served the dish onto his plate. His mother noticed the small gesture. She asked Ethan if he was dating anyone. Ethan's eyes flickered toward Caleb. He replied that he had someone he liked. His mother encouraged him to pursue them. Ethan nodded, saying he was trying. Caleb felt a sharp pang in his chest. So Ethan was chasing someone else. Yet he kept Caleb on a short leash. He was being played. This was another rejection, in a way. He channeled his frustration into eating. His chopsticks moved relentlessly. His mother chided him for his poor manners. She told him to find a boyfriend as good as Ethan. Caleb had come out to his family long ago. He thought dating Ethan would be a nightmare. After dinner, Ethan offered to drive him back. Caleb refused curtly. He told his uncle to go chase his crush. His mother kicked him under the table. She scolded him for being rude. He was eventually forced into Ethan's car. Ethan glanced at him from the driver's seat. He asked if Caleb was jealous. Caleb insisted he would be jealous of a stray dog before him. He turned to stare out the window. A fond, indulgent look appeared in Ethan's eyes. Back in his dorm, Caleb was fuming. He received a message from his best friend, Jamie. Jamie announced he had a new roommate. The bad news was that the roommate was homophobic. Caleb replied that at least he had good news. They agreed to meet the next day. At a cafe, Caleb explained the situation. Jamie was shocked that he slept with Ethan. He accused Caleb of playing with fire. Caleb corrected him that it wasn't a real blood relation. Jamie asked how he planned to handle it. Caleb said he would pretend it never happened. Jamie was skeptical Ethan would agree. Caleb explained Ethan's condition. Jamie concluded that his uncle was a possessive jerk. He was worse than his own homophobic roommate. Caleb lamented his terrible situation. Jamie then mentioned a mixer their schools were co-hosting. He assumed Caleb couldn't go. Caleb's eyes widened. He declared that he was definitely going. If Ethan could pursue someone, he could look. The mixer was on a Sunday night. Caleb and Leo went to the bar near campus. Jamie was already there with a group of friends. The atmosphere was relaxed and fun. Caleb didn't notice Ethan's secretary at a nearby table. The group started playing Truth or Dare. Caleb lost the very first round. He chose dare. They pointed to a man with his back to them at the bar. They dared Caleb to get his number. Caleb walked over, his confidence wavering. The man's back looked strangely familiar. He told himself it was just a game. He tapped the man's shoulder. He asked if he could get his contact info. The man turned around. Caleb froze. It was Ethan. He was dressed down in casual athletic wear. Ethan looked at him, his eyes dark and unreadable. He sipped his drink and raised an eyebrow. He coolly said, "Of course." Caleb turned to flee, but Ethan grabbed his sleeve. He asked if Caleb was part rabbit, always running. He then took Caleb's hand and led him to the group. Jamie's jaw dropped when he saw who it was. The others started cheering for Caleb's success. Ethan pulled out a CR card. He told the group Caleb was leaving with him. He said their drinks were on his tab. Caleb looked at Jamie for help. Jamie happily took the card, thanking Ethan. He cheerfully handed his friend over. Ethan drove Caleb back to his villa. Caleb refused to get out of the car. Ethan unbuckled his seatbelt and carried him inside. In the bedroom, Ethan produced a pair of toy handcuffs. Caleb was horrified by the implication. Ethan secured his wrists to the headboard. He asked if Caleb was seeking attention from others. He wondered if he hadn't satisfied him enough. Caleb's face flushed at the intimate term. He struggled against the restraints. His wrists were becoming red from the friction. He demanded that Ethan release him. Ethan's hand gently caressed his cheek. He asked if Caleb would have left with anyone. Caleb, furious, said it was none of his business. Ethan's expression hardened. He asked what he was to Caleb. A one-night stand? Caleb defiantly said, "What else?" Ethan's gaze fell on his chafed wrists. He quickly unlocked the cuffs. He gently rubbed the red marks. He asked if it hurt. Caleb said nothing and tried to leave. He stated that he wanted to go home. Ethan sighed, his anger gone. He offered to drive him back to the dorm. He waited until Caleb was safely inside before leaving. Caleb felt strangely conflicted. He had been the one tied up. Yet Ethan seemed like the one who was hurt. He spent the next 2 days hiding in his dorm. Ethan didn't call or text. Then Leo forwarded him a link from a gossip site. He asked if that speaker from their school was gay. The link showed a picture of Ethan with a young actor. They were standing very close outside a hotel. The headline claimed they were Hollywood's newest couple. So this was the person Ethan liked. Ethan wasn't straight after all. Then why was it okay for him but not for Caleb? A knock came from the next dorm over. A neighbor told Caleb someone was downstairs for him. He pulled on a hoodie over his shorts and went down. He stopped short when he saw who it was. Ethan noticed the tear tracks on his face. His usual cool demeanor cracked. He asked who had bullied him. All of Caleb's hurt and confusion spilled out. He accused Ethan of toying with him. He called him a hypocrite and a jerk. Ethan took his hand, his expression softening. He asked why Caleb was so dense. He gently wiped a tear from Caleb's cheek. He said the person he liked wasn't a stranger. He said it was his dense little bunny. Caleb stared, completely stunned. He asked about the photos on the internet. Ethan explained it was a smear campaign by a rival firm. The actor had been hired to create a scandal. He said he came as soon as it was handled. He showed Caleb his phone. The gossip link was gone. It was replaced by his firm's official denial and a lawsuit. Ethan's eyes fell on Caleb's bare legs. He guided him to his car parked nearby. Inside, Caleb was overwhelmed with embarrassment. Ethan gently cupped his face. His gaze was warm and steady. He confessed he had wanted to tell him properly, but he realized any moment with Caleb was perfect. He told Caleb that he liked him and only him. Caleb's breath caught in his throat. The person Ethan liked was him. He mumbled about the harsh rejection years ago. Ethan explained Caleb was too young then. He was afraid Caleb wasn't sure of his feelings. He was also afraid of his own lack of control. He then asked if the little jealous boy would be his. Caleb's heart hammered against his ribs. His feelings for Ethan had never truly faded. He was about to say yes, but a mischievous idea took hold. Ethan had teased him for so long. It was his turn to play a little. He said he would consider it. He told Ethan his performance would determine the outcome. Ethan paused, surprised by the response. Caleb enjoyed seeing him momentarily flustered. A loud growl from Caleb's stomach broke the mood. Ethan chuckled and draped a blanket over his legs. He told him to be patient. At the villa, Ethan gave him snacks. Then he went to the kitchen to cook. Caleb watched his tall, lean figure. He had to shake himself from his daydreams. He went to the kitchen as Ethan finished plating steaks. Ethan pushed a plate toward him. He said he would take him back to the dorm after. Caleb protested that it was already late. He couldn't believe Ethan would send him away now. Ethan took a slow bite of his steak. He said he was afraid he would lose control. He was afraid he wouldn't be able to resist eating him up. A blush spread across Caleb's face. He suggested he could just stay in a guest room. But Ethan actually made him sleep in the guest room. Caleb regretted his little game. Soon, a short school holiday began. Ethan sent him a message as usual. He asked if Caleb wanted to join him on a business trip. Caleb playfully asked what if he refused. Ethan replied that he would just have to kidnap him. The next day, Ethan picked him up at the dorm. Leo saw them from the balcony, a knowing look on his face. That evening, they arrived at a beachfront hotel. Ethan took him to a restaurant overlooking the ocean. The gentle sea breeze was romantic. He produced a box with 2 matching rings. He asked if his probation period was over. His eyes were full of warmth and desire. Caleb held out his hand with a small, smug smile. He declared that Ethan had passed the assessment. The words had barely left his mouth. Ethan leaned in and captured his lips. It was a soft, tentative kiss. Caleb's mind went blank, filled only with the feeling. They walked back to the hotel holding hands. Caleb teased that they were like kids on a first date. Ethan whispered in his ear that they were not kids. He stopped in front of a pharmacy. He told Caleb to wait outside for a moment. When he came out, Caleb asked what he bought. Ethan just intertwined their fingers. He said Caleb would find out later. The moment they were in their hotel room, Ethan kissed him. This time it was deep and passionate. His hands held Caleb's waist tightly. His eyes were dark with raw hunger. He asked if he could finally have him. Caleb, completely mesmerized, could only nod. He felt like he was drowning in sensation. Ethan kept pulling him back to the surface. He made Caleb whisper his name. Afterward, Ethan retrieved his purchase from the pharmacy. It was a tube of soothing anti-inflammatory cream. Caleb realized this trip was never about business. As Ethan tended to him, his phone buzzed. It was a message from Jamie. He said one of the guys from the mixer wanted his number. Caleb glanced nervously at Ethan. He quickly typed a reply. He told Jamie no, explaining he was with Ethan now. Jamie replied with a line from a meme. My uncle became my boyfriend, then my husband. On their last day, they drove along the coast. The salty air whipped through the car. The sunset painted the sky in brilliant colors. Ethan stopped the car and got out. He opened his arms, bathed in the golden light. He pulled Caleb into his embrace. Caleb felt like he had finally caught the sun. Ethan almost lost control that first night Caleb confessed. He had forced himself to be stern. The kid was young and might be confused. He decided he would wait. He would pursue him when the time was right. But he couldn't stay away. He found excuses to see him. His eyes were always drawn to Caleb. Then came the call from the bar. Caleb's drunken voice was on the other end. He asked why Ethan had rejected him. Ethan rushed over, thankful he got there first. Caleb had touched him, kissed him. His sanity had completely snapped. He had warned the boy not to regret it, but the little rabbit ran away in his shirt. The rabbit was not just timid, but feisty, and he was terrible at hiding his feelings. Ethan had decided then he would catch his rabbit and never let him go.